Well, good morning and good afternoon and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is Harry Brelsford from SMB Nation. It's July 30th. Do you know where your month went? And I say that facetiously, but I was just in a call earlier today with a client where we reflected on a blog I did June 30th, and that made people kind of, wake up and go, whoa, half a year's gone by. Well, now compound that with another month has essentially gone by. So it's not getting any slower out there, and the context I want to wrap around that, as I did in my earlier call, is that the Office 365 train is leaving the station. It has left the station at this point, and it's time to get on board. And in particular, we're seeing a really robust conversation surrounding unified communications. So that is trending very, very high right now. Compared to, quite frankly, some of the old standby topics of Exchange and SharePoint and some of the things we know and love. But with the rebranding to Skype for Business, this is the hot topic of the summer, and as it should be, because it's kind of the I'm going to say facetiously, the missing link. With that said, a little bit of housekeeping. This is part 2 of a series. So we had a robust audience in part 1. We have an equally robust audience in part 2. So appreciate you taking time out of your day, your vacation in the summer to listen to us. We have our 13th annual fall conference coming up, and that's October 2nd through 4 at Microsoft Redmond. Tomorrow you'll get an email with a reminder about that and a link to the webinar itself that we record today, etc. But I want you to really start thinking about that in the next few days, and that is because we're focused on some pillars. Office 365, including today's speaker, Greg Plum, will definitely have a showing of Skype for Business. Windows 10, which launched yesterday. My launch blog will be up a little bit later today. In fact, Jenny, if you could make a note in the control room, let's get people a link to my Windows 10 blog that's going up in just a little while. We'll do that in tomorrow's email. And then Azure. So we have 3 pillars, and we have a whole bunch of new folks coming from the Yammer groups and so on. So it's a pretty, I'd offer it's a pretty exciting jam session for 3 days up here in Redmond. We have an 18-city tour we'll be announcing shortly, starting in October, 2 cities a month for the foreseeable future surrounding these very same topics. And I think that's essentially it. You can see Pat Houston in the SMB Nation booth next week at CompTIA ChannelCon. You can see Jenny in the booth at the Channel Pro event in Chicago in early September. I'm opening in Las Vegas at the Mirage with my singing act. So Greg, I think I've gone too far. Once again, folks, use the chat feature for your questions. We'll answer your questions at the end. With that said, Greg Plum, let's get going. How are you, sir? Where are you, and what are you wearing today?
I am going to not tell you what I'm wearing. I will tell you I am actually dialing in remotely. I'm usually on the East Coast in Delaware, right outside of Philadelphia, but today I am in spectacular Colorado, one of my favorite places to be. So that really will tell you the value of, you can do this from anywhere. So thank Harry for the intro. I certainly appreciate it. And we're going to start in just a second here, and we will also be hearing from our friends at Globanet as well. They're going to be talking about their services and how they integrate, how they play with Office 365.
Well, and Greg, if you don't mind, one final comment from me before I behave is that, folks, I do want to shout out Globanet. We pride ourselves on academic webinars. We pride ourselves as sort of being the national public radio for MSPs and CSPs. And so this broadcast has been generously underwritten by Globanet, which makes it possible to present to you. Greg, here's the talking stick.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you. So the first question I would like to address is with the first people usually ask us, well, okay, well, we're talking about Skype for Business. Why are we not on Skype for Business for this particular session? So if you're getting ready to type that in, go ahead and hold off. I'm going to tell you the reason for it. Right now, as designed, we're going to find that Skype for Business, as good, as comprehensive, and as disruptive as it is and truly integrated, it's not all things to all people. One of the things that it's missing in its native state is a registration page, which, as you know, for events like this are just crucial. So for that reason, we've opted to go with the Citrix platform, and it certainly works for this type of delivery, but it's not meant to take away anything from Skype and its functionality. But this, in its native state, is best suited, for more of a collaboration than it is for the larger webinars, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So, what's the difference between Lync Skype, Skype for Business? Well, the first thing I want to address is, what is it that most people hate more than anything? They fear death. What else do they fear? Well, they certainly fear public speaking, but that's not neither here nor there. They also fear change. People hate change. So when that happened, I remember Harry actually reached out to me as soon as the announcement came out that Lync was going to be called Skype for Business. He said, "So what do you think of this?" Well, I didn't tell Harry at the time. I said, "Oh my gosh, I think this is not good." It worried me because Lync, Microsoft did such a great job of building a corporate brand, and Lync had great adoption at the higher levels, at the larger enterprise. However, at the mid-market and the SMB market, not so much. So, for me, my initial reaction was, well, I don't like change either. However, once we got into it, we saw that Skype as a brand had just, it was definitely ubiquitous, way more than Lync. So my political response to Harry was, well, I think this could be a good thing because, now we can get the solution down market, downstream, so not just in the larger enterprise. And obviously, Office 365 being Microsoft's fastest growing commercial product in history, that's going to play very well into the SMB space. So for that reason, I think it was a brilliant move by Microsoft. Not that they're asking my opinion, however, that's my official stance at this point. So the point is, with this, the end result is really getting the Lync feature set, which it was definitely robust, more for the enterprise, and coupling that with a familiar interface. So why are we even talking about this? Well, the fact is we had pushing 200 registrants for today. So clearly it's a hot topic in the industry. People want to know what Skype for Business is, how to use it, how to implement it for their customers, and really, quite frankly, how to monetize it. That's the name of the game. So these are some pretty interesting numbers, and I apologize for the grainy nature of the slide. I did repurpose it from Microsoft, but pretty impressive numbers. The numbers are large enough where I think you can certainly make them out. On the Lync side of the house, you're looking at $1 billion in revenue, 1,000 partners selling it. A pretty interesting stat is, to me, what I love. I'm really focused on voice enablement, PSTN integration, turning Lync and Skype for Business and Office 365 into a phone system. So this particular stat's very it's of interest to me. Only 5 million enterprise voice seats deployed. Now, that might sound like a lot, but if you look at the number of seats that are being deployed, and let's look at the numbers on the Skype side, look at the sheer scale over there. You're looking at 320 million connected users, generating 600 billion minutes. Now, just to put that in context, by the time we're done this call today, they will have generated roughly 70 million minutes. From the time we started, from we got Harry's intro until we sign off, roughly 70 million minutes are going to be flowing through that Skype, the consumer Skype product. So you can see the sheer scale is just massive. So to me, I look at this as the power couple, really. You've got Lync, you've got Skype, and at the end of the day, what is the offspring? Well, it's certainly Skype for Business. The values are, the features of this are a familiar interface that over 300 million people were familiar with, comfortable with, and using on a daily basis. Massive, massive reach. And we're going to show you a little bit about how Skype for Business and Skype play together, which is huge. They're not siloed. Enterprise class, and those first two are from the Skype side of the relationship, and from the Lync side, you've got an enterprise class solution, more secure than consumer Skype, definitely more stable, built with the enterprise in mind. So at the end of the day, we all win. We end up with an interface that's a little bit different, but that once you get into it, you see it's much more familiar, much more comfortable, and a little bit less formal, which we'll talk about as well. Okay, now with that, I am going to turn the spot over to Globanet. We have Art on the line who's going to speak a few words. And Art, I'm going to pass it over to you and tell us exactly what you all do and how it plays in the Office 365 space.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate the introduction. My name is Art Guerrero with Globanet, and I want to also thank Harry for helping us set this up. What we've done is, on the Globanet side, is we've developed a product that we call Merge One Cloud, and basically what this product does is it captures exchange type of data, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So we'll capture things like Yammer and Twitter feeds, etc., into Office 365. It seems to be one of the hot topics, including some of the Skype for Business messaging that this whole discussion's about. So we've been in development of the product now for several years. The big jump for us recently was we were engaged with Microsoft in regards to capturing the Yammer information. I know this isn't a Yammer discussion, but the quote at the bottom that is on the page there talks about how Globanet's been able to capture some of the non messaging practices that are going on, the archiving that's happening. And I'm going to have to ask you, Greg, do I have control of this, or is this you?
I got it.
Okay, appreciate it. So on this slide, what we're showing are the non, I call it non-Office 365 tools that are out in space: Yammer, Bloomberg. We also do Facebook, Twitter, etc., and then of course Skype for Business. So all this data can be captured within one tool. We call it Merge One into an Office 365 environment, and this is kind of a unique offering in the fact that we don't necessarily have to deploy these individual components. So if you only had 2 of these, you could deploy 2 of these. If you have all of them, which nobody would, but the capability is there. So in the next slide, what we do is we actually show you kind of a pictorial of again how it works. It's traditionally a on-premise model. We've moved it into an Office 365 or a cloud solution, and we do have quite a few clients, especially around the financial services arena, where they're starting to use this, and we've been quite successful in deploying the tool. I think on the next slide we talk a little bit about another product that we've developed to capture clients who are not currently on a Office 365 environment, that we can bring their data into Office 365. We call this Migrate, not part of this discussion, but I just want to let you know that Globanet is a Microsoft channel partner, and along with SMB Nation, look forward to continuing this relationship.
Excellent. Art, thanks so much. Appreciate the information on that, and we can certainly see how it ties in with this beast of a machine that's known as Office 365. So thanks for that. Yes. Okay. So let's take a look at what it looks like, and this is going to be real simple. We're going to go through a few examples of old versus new. We're going to take a little trip down memory lane, and you can see the difference in what the experience is going to look like for the consumer. So on the left-hand side, obviously, is Lync. You can see the functions, the fields, all very, very similar. It's just a different look and feel. It's a different skin. The Lync side, I would say, is, I dare say, call it a little bit more sterile or watered down and whitewashed. Whereas on the Skype side, it's a little bit more friendly. One might argue too friendly, which we'll talk about in a second, but that's just a matter of opinion. But it's very easy to use. Squares became circles. The nice thing is, and really the unifying component of all of this, everything we do in unified communications would be really half as impactful or less without presence. Presence enables us to find out, our audience. Are they ready for us? Are they available? Can they take our inquiry? If they can, great. We get in, we get out, we get our answer, we're done. No more games of phone tag. No more email back and forth, email discussions back and forth. So, being able to text somebody a question when you see that they have a little green dot next to their name and get an answer back in seconds is just truly invaluable. So in a meeting itself, you can see it looks a little bit more friendly on the Skype side, a little less whitewashed, a little less sterile. A little more video-centric than, Skype is definitely not a video-centric tool. It's more about the content, more about the communication, but it's a little bit more personal than you would have gotten historically in the Lync client. But you can see the fields are generally the same. Okay, we're going to talk quickly about emoticons, which is, quite frankly, not my personal favorite. This is something that did make the output, in Skype for Business. It was kept. In order to take advantage of those, you would simply click on this little, in your Skype client, you click on the little smiley face, and then it pulls up all these different emoticons that are actually animated. So you can, if you click on it, it'll automatically put it in the chat box. And I don't know, I guess people could argue that it makes it a little more fun, a little more friendly, but certainly not quite as, I guess, corporate or professional as Lync was. However, it's there. You can choose to use it or you can choose to ignore it. Call Monitor. This is one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best enhancements that came out of Skype for Business. Think about times when you're in a meeting and you end up, something else comes up. Somebody walks in the room, you get an email in, it pops up, and you have to deal with it right then and there. And you do, right? Your focus changes from the meeting, and you go over to whatever other window you're in, or maybe you're really bored, it's a horrible topic, and you go down a rabbit hole in LinkedIn or something. Well, what's nice about Call Monitor is it's going to automatically, if you navigate away from that meeting, it's going to take that little window up in the top there, and it'll always be at the top of your monitor, so you're able to see you're really able to gain access to that meeting. When is that important? How often have you been caught basically, where you shouldn't be? If you're in Google and you're doing something, or you're in the document and somebody says, "So Joe, what do you think of what do you think of this?" And then you're scurrying to find the button, get back to the meeting so you can make sure you're unmuted and answer the question. Well, you don't have to do that anymore, because with this Call Monitor on the screen, very simply, it's always at front and center. You can unmute your line right there, answer the question, go back to mute, and keep on doing what you were doing. Just a real easy way to get back to your meeting at all times. So that's a huge plus for the Skype for Business client. File transfer. This is really a fun feature, really. You can take any document during a meeting, take any document, drag it from your desktop right into your client, right into the chat box, and it's going to show up. It'll automatically upload. And the nice thing is, not only that, right in the meeting, your audience can click a button, download it right from there, and they'll have it saved wherever they want to save it right during the meeting. So definitely very user-friendly, very intuitive. Now, Microsoft, as you're probably aware, anything that's doable, you can do a couple of different ways, or at least a couple of different ways. There's always the right-click component, so there's always something you can do to backdoor it. But this is pretty much front and center, real simple. Take a document, drag it in, and it automatically transfers to your audience. Real easy to use, very intuitive. Okay, so we talked before, very early on, if you recall, very early, that was what, 20 minutes ago, the scale of Skype. So if you remember on that slide, it said 320 million users. So what's nice about that, with the new client, there's actually connection between Skype and Skype for Business. So when you want to add a user to your client, to your contacts, you simply click, very simple. You click on the little plus, and here's what pops up. You can add a contact. You can add somebody from within your organization, but most often you're probably going to be adding somebody from outside, a vendor, a customer, just a colleague. And they could be from anywhere in the world. I was on last night with a colleague in Australia, and he and I connected. He happened to be on Skype for Business, but you can even connect with Skype. So there's an interplay between Skype for Business and Skype. So the fact that there's that connector means you now, through your Skype for Business client or your customer's Skype for Business client, now has access to the world, 300+ million members that they can fully communicate with. Pretty big deal, actually. So once you get in, you start navigating. You get a choice between your own contacts or the Skype directory, and it's just very simply, you simply click and add them to your directory. And then you can even save them to your favorites. If you find that see that right here. If you have certain people you're talking to on a daily basis, just like anything else you're doing, it's always nice to have them at your fingertips. You can do that quite simply with your contacts in Skype for Business as well. Now, here's another one, rate my call. And this is something that is actually, this can be set by the administrator. You can set it to come up after every call. You can set it to come up after every 10 calls, or however they want it to use it. And the data gets fed back to the admin, so they're able to see how the experience has been for the users. And the one I was on, mine isn't set for every call. I think it's every 10th. And last night I happened to be on a call. When I hung up, this is exactly what popped up. It just gives you the opportunity to report your experience. If it's a good experience, great. If there's an issue, this gives you the opportunity to be very granular and very specific about what you're reporting. Okay, now as far as the specific overall, the slides, that's what I wanted to cover. What I will share with you, I want to pull up my client here so you can take a real quick look at what it looks like in action. But please do make a note, and I know the deck is going to be available to you, the recording is going to be available to you. But here's our contact information for Globanet. I know Art spoke, but Michael's going to be the primary contact at Globanet. So any questions at all about that product and how it works with 365 and how you can deploy that, Michael's going to be your contact. And anything as far as what we talked about today with Skype for Business, I would be your contact for that. Don't hesitate on that email address. Abuse it. I love hearing from the audience on this because there's so many questions that come up. So what I do want to do is I'm going to flip over real quick. We're going to get out of slideshow. And I'm going to share my client. So very, very simply, everything I do, it's always running in the background. Everything I do, no matter where I am always having Skype for Business. And you see it recognizes. Here's the beautiful thing. Remember we talked about presence, and presence being, in my opinion, the overarching concept that makes all of this so valuable. This recognizes, it's considered called rich presence. So I didn't have to go in and say, oh, I'm going to be in a meeting. It recognizes that I'm in a meeting automatically, and you can see I'm in my live environment, so you're going to see emails come in. But I think that's the value, so you can see exactly how this operates. The fact is, it sees I'm in a meeting. It's going to automatically tell my audience, oh, you can't bother him right now. He's tied up. So it just makes a much more, it definitely makes it more of a productivity tool as opposed to just a communication tool. So that presence is huge. So with this, I'm able to go in and add contacts to some of my favorite contacts right at the very top. This, I actually don't believe I have anything scheduled here. This will show my conversations. So any conversations, the nice thing about what you're doing within this environment, everything gets saved in your Conversations tab in Exchange. So what you'll find is it's tightly knit. Remember the days of, WebEx. It's not like those days are gone. However, with WebEx, very, very siloed solution. What is beautiful about Skype for Business is it's tightly integrated, it's tightly woven into everything else you do, so much so you can be in a Word document, or you can be in an Excel document, or in your inbox. And right from these documents, you're able to communicate with another person. You're able to send an IM or a chat right from that particular application. You don't have to stop what you're doing, go over, open up your communications portal, and send out your message. So it allows you to really communicate across the entire platform. So that siloed solution is gone. And from a dollars and cents standpoint, we've done a couple of analyses. We're able to take this a step further. Right now, what's native to the product is VoIP, right? So it's a Skype-to-Skype call. It doesn't cost anything. That there's 600, 600 billion minutes in use. It didn't cost the user. Well, I shouldn't say that, because some of those are going to be Skype out minutes. I don't know the breakdown there, so some of them are going to be monetized. But the vast majority of the calls are absolutely free, Skype-to-Skype. So with that, you're able to see basically. That's a great way to have your regular communications. But what happens if somebody's not on Skype? What happens if they're out on the street, so to speak, if they're mobile? There are other solutions where voice becomes a component, PSTN voice. So that can be done by adding a hybrid bridge, giving the customer the ability to provide a phone number, a PSTN, a regular bridge phone number, an 800 number or a toll number, along with a passcode. That end user can dial those access instructions and get into a Skype meeting. Or let's say they want to take it to the next level, and they actually want to turn it into their phone system. That's doable as well. So if you want to actually call somebody, we'll pick on somebody right here. So if we wanted to, we could make a Skype call, be Skype to Skype for free, or you see where it says new number. I can actually dial a phone number, and I actually have a phone number connected to my service as well. So not only is Skype for Business a texting, video chat online, it actually can be leveraged, turned into a complete hosted phone system. So there are some specifics there, and really that's not what today's about, as far as the license levels. But the reason I bring it up is because I've already alluded to a siloed versus an integrated solution. WebEx being, and I'm going to pick on WebEx, great services, no doubt. Citrix, the one we're on right now, to go to webinar session, also siloed. It's a great tool. However, we leave our existing environment to go to that environment to handle whatever business we need to handle. With Skype, if we've taken that and added to it the dial tone, so it really becomes a phone system, you have your completely hosted unified communications platform, including all of your telephony, and everything you're going to need from a phone system, you can now handle in a hosted environment. So basically, it's taking that Office 365 purchase, of which, and this maybe I'm going to step back just a couple steps. Office 365 comes in many flavors, right? It's Microsoft. Microsoft always provides multiple versions, which unfortunately results in a little bit of confusion for the consumer, or an opportunity for the channel. But some of the versions have the Skype for Business automatically included. What we're able to do, if it has Skype for Business, certain versions of Office 365 can be voice enabled, turning it into this phone system, turning it into the complete solution, completely hosted. Oftentimes, for the same cost, if you look at a bundled cost between the license as well as the voice, oftentimes less than what they're going to pay for a single WebEx license. So from a dollars and cents standpoint, it works for companies of all sizes, those that are looking to get out of the capital expense model and have a more of an operational expense model, since this is all subscription-based. And also, they're always going to be guaranteed to have the latest software service. They're going to have the service level agreements in place to ensure quality, and it allows them to move from an on-premise solution to a hosted solution. And cloud is clearly here to stay. I think Harry alluded to the fact that these changes, they were not a fleeting time stretch. Right. So it's a beautiful thing. And what we're doing is we're just really trying to leverage that and make it as fully functional as possible for the end user, and an opportunity for the partner, for those partners on the phone that Microsoft partners that play in the space. These are great opportunities, because there is a ton of confusion out there. There's no doubt about it, from an end user standpoint and from a partner standpoint. That confusion is opportunity for us. All we need to do is educate ourselves a little bit. So with that, I am going to, and I think I spoke too fast. I went through the content pretty quick here, but that gives us a little bit of time for questions. So I am happy to answer anything that's come in that is within my knowledge base. If it's not, I'm going to politely decline. Jenny, do we have anything?
We do. I am Jenny. Bet you didn't know Jenny had such a deep voice.
I did not.
So we do have questions, but first a little bit of housekeeping, folks, as usual. We are at exactly the bottom of the hour, and some of you have joined late. So first of all, as the markets continue to fall, we're moving forward. How do you like that, Craig?
Yeah, I love it.
CNBC in the background. Housekeeping, some of you joined late. You are on the weekly webinar from SMB Nation. This is Harry Brelsford. We're coming to you live from the Seattle area, our home office on Bainbridge Island. We have Greg Plum joining us from Denver, Colorado. Our program today is graciously underwritten by Globanet. We appreciate that. We are finding you appreciate the academic webinars, and if you do appreciate that, if you could honor having a conversation with the people that sponsor and underwrite our efforts, totally makes the hamster wheel go round. Fall conference coming up October 2 through 4. You'll get a link in tomorrow's follow-up email, as well as a link for the webinar itself to replay and some other announcements. But one of the pillars, as always, is the last couple of years, Office 365. Greg Plum will be leading some sessions on Skype for Business. More importantly, you'll be here with the product teams, and that's kind of like being a lawyer and going to Washington, D.C., where they make the laws. So get that on your calendar. It's going to be a great year. Another pillar is Windows 10 that launched yesterday. My blog is up, by the way. If you go to smbnation.com, should be position number 2 right now. So my Win 10 blog is up with Windows Willie, who I spent some time with yesterday. Greg, we need to come up with a good CB radio handle for you, sir.
We'll talk about that one offline, because
we'll take that one offline. We have an 18-city tour coming up, folks, at the starting in October, which will feature Greg and some others in terms of Office 365 and Win 10. With that said, we have a lot of questions. So let me take the chat window over to screen number 2.
Pick the easy one, Terry.
Let me expand it. Okay.
And before we get, let me just,
yes,
I'm sorry, let me just throw out, I am pretty well versed in this. I do not have all the answers, so please forgive me if there's anything in here that I don't have the answer for. Rather than try to fake it, I'm going to politely tell you I don't have the answer, but I will get it, and we'll get it back to you.
Well, they say a good consultant has a great Rolodex, so
Yep.
you know who to call. Now, with that said, let's jump right in, folks. We have question number 1. Can we limit users from adding people to their list? I can see this is becoming a productivity and security headache.
Well, the nice thing is there's an admin portal that's provided, to each end user and or an MSP if they're going to be handling, managing that role for their end user, for their customer. So it's pretty granular. Now, as far as being able to limit whom they're able to connect with, I don't know the answer to that, but I can certainly find out if, how they would go in and maybe essentially, I hate to say this word, but it's almost like blacklisting, if it's from a certain domain or from a certain email, make it so it's not possible. But, my gut tells me yes, it's certainly possible because I know it's very granular in control, but I'd have to find out specifically if they can limit users from not being added.
Excuse me. Greg, we used to call that redlining in lending, so, but that's illegal, sir. So,
right. I know. So
okay.
I will come up with another nicer, more politically correct term.
Okay. Next question. What happened to share my desktop?
So you are able to, that's a really good point. So you are able to do that within the Lync client. I'll show you real quick of that. I'm going to take us right back into the client itself. What you could do from, if I fire up the session, let me think about this. Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous to do that. We could fire up a session right here. Oh, let me see. Let me go back to the slides and I'll show you where we would do it. Pretty simple, actually. It's a good question. What you're going to find, things haven't gone away. All right, they may have been, I'm not going to say misplaced, but they've changed where they've gone. So in the Skype for Business, and I apologize, I know this is small, but at least I think it's going to give you an idea of what we're looking at. There is this little icon right here. It's the third one over, right next to the red button, right to the left of the red. The red is the hang up. The other one is a little monitor, and at that monitor, that's where you would go in, click that button. You can share your entire desktop. You can share a particular application. You can actually even dig in a little bit deeper and click on the more, right? Microsoft's famous for 2 things. A more button, a little more tag, and then the ellipsis, which usually means more as well. But with that, you're able to share a whiteboard, Q&A, a poll. So all that's done is fully integrated. You can even record the session. Now, If you do record, it's not my favorite. You know, it's a very necessary service. Right now, as it exists today, when you record something, it's going to sit native. It's going to download to your machine, to your native client. Sorry, to your native environment. It's not hosted in the cloud. Now, I don't know if that's ever going to change, but that's where it is today. And the other downside of it is it renders, you know, minute by minute. So if you have an hour-long session, it's going to take about an hour for that recording to be fully rendered and ready to share. So good question. It's there, and you would get it in the using that little blue button right on the page. You know what, Harry? Let me just jump in real
go ahead,
quick.
Greg.
One thing we're going to see as you dig in, if you haven't done so already, Skype for Business. I know I mentioned it. It's not all things, you know, all people. There are certainly some holes in the offering, which those holes ultimately translate into opportunities for other businesses. There are businesses that are being created, and I'm sure we've all heard the term "born in the cloud." So, you know, my business itself is born in the cloud, but these companies are coming up with, they're saying, hey, look, 365 is huge. I can't ignore it. I need to actually, rather than ignore it, I'd rather play in that space. How can I do that? How can I add value? How can I add functionality? So there are companies that are out there that have remember we talked about today, there's not a registration component. Well, there's a company out there that has built a registration component and a higher end recording component that can host the recordings in the cloud. That's just one example of somebody looking at this tool and saying it's a rock star product, however, it could be better if. And these companies are creating the solutions to that question of if it did this. Go ahead, Harry.
Okay, very cool. Next question is, I know the answer, but I'll ask the question. So was Lync replaced by Skype for Business?
Do you want to take it, or would you like me to take it? You're welcome to take it.
You're the expert. You take it.
Okay, that's cool. So it is. Now, what you're going to find is, especially in the larger corporations, I was on premise at a very large corporation out in California a couple weeks ago doing some training, and they still have Lync deployed. You know, so it is officially at this moment, or I guess it was as of, Harry, help me out, I think it was the day before tax day, about April 14th?
It was. Yeah, it was right in the zone.
So at that point, Lync is officially passé, and Skype for Business takes over as the brand. So, yep, very good question, and it's funny, it sounds very basic, but that is on the tip of most people's tongues these days.
No, totally legitimate question. Okay, this is a longer question. Hi. My question is that our company uses GoToMeeting for all kinds of things like training, staff meetings, and remote technical support calls. You established early on that if Skype for Business cannot replace GoToWebinar, GTW, can it replace GoToMeeting?
Great question. So, yes, in a word, yes. Because GoToMeeting is much more of a collaboration tool. You know, it's more small working groups, and that's exactly what Skype for Business is designed for. Now, taking that one step further, and you didn't have this, you know, I didn't get to say this beforehand. When you posed that question, we had said, if you remember, we just now, a second ago, talked about, yes, Skype for Business is lacking the registration, so it's really not good for webinars. However, there are other companies that have come out with solutions to try to, you know, bridge that gap and fill that void. So with that said, I would say when you have all the components together, I'd be worried if I was Citrix. But I think, I believe Citrix is already putting GoTo on the block. I think it's up for sale. I believe I heard that. Anybody else? Harry, did you hear that?
No.
Yeah.
I'll check out.
Oh, did you hear it here first? Well, I sure hope it's accurate if you heard it here first.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Boy, they're that's a whole other cup of coffee to talk about Citrix over the years. But in any event, thank you, sir, for the answer. The next question, are you saying Skype for Business is an alternative for hosted VoIP, voice over IP?
Yes, I am. That's exactly what I'm saying. Now, okay, and this is one of my favorite spaces because what it does, it takes my background of telephony and really melts it into the IT world. And, you know, IT is where it's at these days. No one's selling circuits, explaining the circuits anymore. So in its native state, no, it's going to require a third party. And there are several companies that are out there, and you can feel free if you want to jot down my email, greg@plumuc.com. We can have a discussion offline. There are companies that have done that. They've actually taken their own, they've built sort of their own servers, their Lync or Skype for Business servers, and integrated and plugged SIP trunks into them. Without getting too detailed, what will happen is 365 has the Skype for Business client built into it. Certain versions do. Typically, it requires E3, enterprise class 3 or 4, because those two actually have unified, what's known as unified messaging integrated with that, which will allow your emails to go to voicemail and vice versa. Once the customer has those two versions, then they can work with one of these third parties, and it can replace your classics. The leaders, the market leaders, what? Ring Central, Packet 8x8, Vonage, all these different companies. And they're all strong platforms. They're all great companies in their own right. But yes, the answer is you can take your Office 365 license, work with one of these third parties, and add dial tone and replace either an on-premise phone system or another hosted phone system. Now, with all that said, I would be remiss if I didn't say one of those players is going to be, in the very near future, Microsoft. So Microsoft has also announced in their roadmap that they're adding PSTN capabilities. And depends on who you ask. I mean, maybe I'm just not asking the right people at Microsoft, but their cost, we're not sure of the cost. We're not sure of the specifics around it, the functionality around it. But regardless, the way I see it, you're always going to have room for third-party providers because they usually specialize, whereas Microsoft, I don't know that I don't know. Maybe they will specialize, but in voice, but that's not their tenure, right? That's not their roots. But that's a really long answer to a very good question of can it replace a phone system? The answer is yes.
Very cool. Hey, a shout out to Russ Grover. I got a Facebook message from Russ. Russ is saying he was tired of listening. No, tried listening. I thought he said tired of listening to us today. Tried listening.
I thought,
tried listening to us today.
Okay.
His laptop's acting up, so Russ sends his regards. He said, enjoy the sunshine. I replied back to Russ that we'll send him the replay link, folks. He'll be getting the replay link tomorrow in a thank you email. So thank you, Russ, for the Facebook note. Appreciate you logging on and listening as you're able. Next question. What role would Plum UC play with partners in helping us to promote Skype for Business?
Wow, well, this really isn't a commercial. I appreciate the question, and I'm happy to, if anybody wants to reach out to me. What I do is I really work with partners. I've always been partner first, and I've been at it for 15 years in the channel. What I do is I've made it my business to focus on Lync, which has become Skype for Business, voice enablement, and unified communications as a service. So that's my role. I kind of know the landscape. I know the players, and I can help guide the discussion. And so you don't start from scratch. You work with me, and I can help you play in the right direction. So thanks for that question. But today's session is really not for me to talk about me.
Well, wait a minute. You asked the question, man. No, I'm just kidding. So you're learning marketing from the best. Look at that. Okay.
Got it.
All right. Seriously, can Federation, it almost looks it looks like someone's answering something. They said you can through Federation, so it's not actually a question. Don't know if you want to grab that flyby, if that makes sense. It looks like someone was posting up an opinion or an answer.
So, well, the Federation is going to allow you to communicate with those that are outside of your organization. So if you have vendors and partners, customers that you want to, I mean, if you saw in my client before, those names that were listed are not employees or coworkers. They are colleagues, and they're all working for other organizations. So, and that's done through Federation. Now, the beautiful thing, if you're using Office 365, that federates, globally. So with other 365 users, unless, remember we talked about admin lockdown. So their admins do have controls, and they're able to limit what you do, who you do it with, how long you do it. But natively that capability does exist, and that's, yeah, the Federation allows those outside or those disparate entities to communicate flawlessly and seamlessly, including presence. So I can tell when my colleague in Australia is available. So it's a beautiful thing. So I'm guessing that's what that was addressing.
Very cool. Next question is, will you be able to do PSTN, POTS, and PRI in Office 365 Cloud PBX?
Yes, you can do it right now today with third party. And the big unknown is when Microsoft says they're going to enter the PSTN space, what exactly does that mean? And if I went on further at this point, I'd be making it up because I'm just not quite sure exactly what that means. If it does mean, we know that it'll be another player, it'll be another option for consumers and partners. However, these options, as great as they always breed confusion. So again, for those on the phone that are partners or Microsoft partners, I mean, I talk to you all every single day trying to, figure out what your customers need and how to help implement, deploy, and really grow your customer base. That's a good question. Yeah, PSTN is really one of the major upgrades that you're going to see with as Microsoft in their communications that are rolling out this summer.
Excellent. Next question, sir, is can you shoot me Greg's email address? Greg, why don't you go back to the slide where you have your contact information?
Sure.
I'm kind of tempted to read your mobile phone number over the air, so you have to destroy your phone.
You know what? Based on yesterday's news with the NFL, I'm not even going to touch that one.
I was thinking more Donald Trump read the name. What was that? He read the phone number of one of the Lindsey Graham, I think. So, but you're right about yesterday with the NFL. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Doesn't that make anybody else chuckle that knows this industry? It's like you can destroy the phone all you want. The records are the records, and they want them, they can get them. It has nothing to do with that device.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay.
Yeah, anyway.
Greg, you're back on the slide. Folks, we're going to make this last call for questions. So we had a lot of questions, a huge audience. Again, Jenny, if you and Greg coordinate on the email for tomorrow, because Greg, want to make sure it's more than just our standard template. Thank you. You know what I mean? Let's make sure that we point to some resources above and beyond the replay link. So appreciate that. And then, folks, it looks like we may have cleared the deck on the questions. So next week we have attached apps is the webinar. Once again, on the housekeeping front, don't forget the 13th Annual Fall Conference, October 2 through 4, featuring Office 365, Skype for Business, Azure, and Windows 10. Plus, keep your eyes open for our announcement on an 18-city tour. Stay up to date at sbnation.com and 365nation.com. So, folks, do have a good one. Greg, any final words, sir?
No, not at all. I'd say I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of your day. Hopefully this was worth your while. And, Michael at Globanet and I am both happy to speak with you further about any of your needs that relate to 365 or Skype for Business.
There you have it. Okay, so Jenny, go ahead and take us out. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.